Alright, they decided to put our radiator in our 2013 Super Duty. This is the primary radiator. And we're going to just flush out both cooling systems. So we got enough antifreeze to do primary and secondary system. Not too sure how much of this I'll be able to film. Don't have a lot of space on my camera phone here, and I do these a little differently from flat raters. This job pays about, I don't know, right around 5 hours. And here's the primary radiator, and the secondary radiator is under the support here. And there's many ways to go about doing this job. You can, you can just fillet the front over a little bit and pry the shroud out and just pull the radiator out of it. I've done it that way. I've done it pretty quickly under the flat rate system, but I've long given up on flat rate, and I just work at a snail's pace to get the job done and try not to break anything in the process. So I'm going to peel this thing off like layers of an onion until I get to the radiator, change it out, and put everything back on the front of it. Nice and easy, nice and relaxing. It's a nice day, not too hot today, and there ain't anything else to do at all. I have nothing at all. So I'm not too sure how much of this I'm going to be able to film. I know there's no way I can film 5 hours worth of work. So I'll try to hit the highlights, and maybe it won't be too horrible of a video. So the first thing I'm going to do is get both systems draining and get the fluid out of them, and then I'm going to hook the AC machine up and reclaim that. That's another thing that people don't like. Alright, so if you're going to flat rate this thing, you're going to try to snatch the radiator out. You want to take as little off as possible. You don't want to have to deal with the air conditioning and all that, but it's in the way, so I'm just going to reclaim it. And we got these lights in here, which adds a little bit of aggravation. The grill's definitely got to come off. I don't care how you're doing it, but I don't think they put connectors on these, so I may just have to lay the grill over here on the battery and tie it up somehow. We'll see how it goes. Alright, remove the bumper for clarity purposes only. This is the primary drain, and this is the secondary radiator drain, and it's real difficult to get to with a bumper on. So most people don't even use the petcock to drain it. They'll just drain it right here off of the transmission cooler. So you just simply pop this clamp off, pull the line off, and drain the radiator. But you won't get all the radiator, but you get enough to do what you have to do. But like I said, I just took the bumper off. Normally you don't have to, but this will really get it drained pretty good. There's a socket that'll fit on these. I don't have one, so I just use a little pair of pliers. And you just give her a twist 90 degrees, pull out on it, and then twist another 90, and it's open. And these don't drain real great. Sometimes you have to help them. Sometimes they won't even drain at all, like that one. This one on the other hand should make a mess. The drain cock actually came right out of there. So she's a squirter. We'll let that drain. As far as the air conditioning goes, if you have a machine that'll do high side charging, In a situation like this, I'll just hook the high side up only. I won't even bother hooking the low side up. We're not going to have it apart long enough to worry about moisture, and if I have to add oil back to it, I can add it manually, just pour it in the line. But this one's pretty easy. The low side's over here, but I'm just going to hook up the high side just to get it drained. Alright, so next I'm going to take the grill out, and when I take the bolts out of stuff, I put them, just throw them in my drawer here, and I'll take the left outside, or the right side of the vehicle, the left side of the vehicle, center of the vehicle, the back. I'll kind of lay them out. Like the grill bolts, they have these little teeth on them, little serrated edge to help keep it in place, so that way I don't have to figure out what's going on. And then I use a really long screwdriver to release the clips down in the bottom here. Let's see if you can see this. So there's one clip. I've already released it, and just go in here and then it'll pop the clip loose. Let's see if I can do another one here. Alright, so here's the middle one. Alright, when I clip it, I can just pull back on the grill. Anytime I reclaim an air conditioning system, I always disconnect the line that I get to. In this case, just got this loose. Because if you wait to take it apart, it'll build pressure up in here. If I reclaimed this last night and it came in today to take it apart, it'd be like a little bomb. Be air conditioning fluid everywhere. It's a technical term. almost done. Alright, so we got all the supports out of the way, and it's a kind of close quarters getting the fan shroud off the radiator. So it's just 4 bolts holding it to the radiator. I'm just going to use an 8mm ratchet wrench. I want to take those off before I take any hose connections off, because then it's a mess. And I don't want to get my hands all antifreezing. So next, I'm going to get the fan shroud off. Take all the connections off for the hoses, and then we'll take the actual hardware off to remove the radiators from the vehicle as far as what's holding them together. That way I'm not fighting the loose radiator trying to get the hose off of it. So another thing I like to do is disconnect the lowest hose first. That way I can work my way up. That way I don't have fluid running down all over the next hose I got to put on. Case in point. these hoses. Now we can take this radiator. Now what we're left with is the main radiator. Just what we're after again. So the only thing holding this in is the two radiator hoses. So we'll pop those off and then set it up. Now we've got to set the fan shroud up out of the clips of the radiator. I can just set it up. Sorry I couldn't get you guys in for close-up shots, but basically there's the lower, upper, the other lower, the other upper. Fan shroud mount, you don't have to separate them, you don't have to take any of this stuff off of them, leave them all together. That clips into the radiator, so you got to kind of pick it up to get them out. This clips into the radiator, so I just undid it. Couldn't see it, it was off camera. The radiator sits in these little studs here. Stud there and stud there. You got overflow. This goes to the water pump on the secondary. Another hose off the secondary. This goes up to the degas bottle for the secondary. Top hose, bottom hose. These clips are real easy. I mean, they're super easy. They're easier with two hands. It just pops up and you just knock them off of there. And these have pretty good O-rings in them. You can reuse them for the most part. That one's kind of flat, though. I'll probably replace them. So you're better off to replace them, especially on 6.4. You always want to replace them. You never want to try to reuse them. Just asking for trouble. But try to cut down as much mess as possible. So I utilized 2 5-gallon buckets and a transmission catch pan, and we don't have any mess. The mess is outside. So there's the secondary radiator and AC condenser, and there's the primary. And we've got to transfer this shield here over to the replacement and put it back together. Alright, so this is the replacement O-ring for the upper and lower radiator hoses at the radiator themselves. It's a different number on the other end of the hoses. So I'm replacing them both because they're pretty flat. I'll show you what they look like. So this is the old one. I mean, it's kind of square, and that's the new one, pretty round. The square ones won't leak until you take it apart, and then they don't seal. Just put that in there, push that down. I try to replace these and lubricate them before I put the radiator in, if I have the opportunity, just simply because it's much harder to do when you're got the radiator in the way. So I just use Vaseline or transmission assembly lube, because it'll stay put until you're ready to put it back together. Alright, the proper orientation for, I don't know if you guys saw that part number real clearly, but it's EZ3Z, EC3Z 8005, E as in Edward. So the proper orientation for this thing, these clips usually don't hold up, but they did okay on this one, is it goes on the front of the radiator facing the grill, because this will fold over and seal between the two radiators, and then this will go up to the bumper and just keep airflow going through the radiator and not down under the truck, because it's air is like fluid and it'll take the path of least resistance, so it doesn't want to go through the radiator if it doesn't have to. Alright, so I'm getting ready to put this thing back together, and reassembly is the same as disassembly, nothing special. One thing you got to watch out for is these little nubs. It's 4 of these nubs on the fan shroud, and this thing moves all over the place. They will hang up on the radiator down in this area, so the radiator will actually go down and push them out like that. So you got to make sure when you come down with the radiator that this sits flush up against it and not underneath it like that. So that's the only real thing you got to worry about. And one of the advantages of having the wheels turned, turn the wheels to get the jug under there to drain it, is that the truck tilts like this, and it keeps all the fluid that runs out of here and here and here and collects in these pockets. It keeps it over here. It drains down in the pan instead of into the floor. So I'm going to put this thing back together, and then I'll show you how I fill both systems effortlessly. Ready to fill this cooling system now. I left the grill out just to give a little better view. One last view. So the new radiator's in. We swapped over the upper and lower air deflectors. One thing you may have noticed, I don't know, is I didn't take the hood latch out. In the past, I just take these bolts out. They have serrated teeth on them, but there's an adjustment here. And Ford put this nice little break in the cable. So if this cable were to break, you can get it separately. You don't have to worry about getting the cable that goes all the way into the interior. But all you got to do is just pry this open with a pocket screwdriver, and then this just simply sits right in there. Put it down, and you're good to go. It's that easy. You don't have to worry about the bolts and the adjustment and all that silliness. I actually did have to cut the wiring on the wigwags in the grill. Didn't want to, but I'm going to put a connector in on it. I'm not happy about it, but got to do what you got to do. So I always take the grills out, so if I have to work on it again to do something to the engine, it'll be easier to take the grill out with a connector on it. By taking the grill out, you can lay, the grill brings you out right in here, but you can get right here and get that much closer to the engine with the grill out. Plus, if it's a chrome grill and you got a belt on, you don't worry about scratching it with your belt buckle, stuff like that. The grills come out pretty easy. This has actually 2 separate style cooling systems. This has a degas system where the fluid is always running back in, and you have a little waterfall effect into the bottle, and it gets rid of all your air bubbles. And then the secondary system has just a regular cap. If it were to vent fluid, then it would just actually vent right on the ground, because this doesn't go into anything. Two totally different ways to fill these. We're going to use the airlift. The airlift's the original, the OG fluid evacuation system. I like it. I've had this a long time. I bought it when it first came out, 99 or 2000, somewhere in there. And depending on whether you have depending on whether you're using this on a degas system or a regular pressure vacuum style radiator, it's a little different how you fill it. So we'll look at that. The best way I found to fill these, I just use 5-gallon buckets, and these are nice because we have a detail department, which is right over there, and I can get these buckets all day from these guys. You can go to Home Depot or whatever and get just Homer buckets, and they'd be like that, but they don't have a lid on them, so you can't keep the dirt out of them. So these have a lid, and it makes it easy. I'll pre-mix, so I'm going to use these gallons here and pre-mix it. Just a regular tap water, no distilled water. Around here, you're lucky if the customer even puts liquid in their cooling system at all, much less a discerning citizen that would actually take the time to buy distilled water. I mean, these kind of things come in with green, gold, whatever they can get their hands on, they'll put in if they got a leak. So tap water is good enough in this scenario, no matter what the manufacturer wants or states. And around here they run fine. Our water is full of sand. We're at the beach, so we get the sandy water, so that works real good. Keeps all the crud out of the radiator. All right, so let's. As far as the airlift styles go, a lot of people make these now. You can get it from Blue Point, Snap-on, or whatever. Cornwell, but they all have their ups and downs. Like this one, for instance, I consider this to be the best, but the gauge is a little delicate, and you have to be real careful with it. But you can buy replacement gauges for it. The Blue Point or Snap-on model, it doesn't have a ball valve. You have to actually hold a button to pull the vacuum, which terrible. But the rest of it works okay. And the Cornwell, it has a lot of ball valves that are pretty nifty, but the hose that you pull the fluid through is so cheesy that it won't fall to the bottom of the jug. It just floats up to the top. So then you got to put weights on it and sinkers and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, let's fill this thing. So we need to find the correct adapter. You can use a no adapter. In this particular case, this one fits. So put that in there, slide that into the adapter and screw it down. Then we'll hook up our air adapter. Just hang this over the end of the truck. Put some air to it. Now in a perfect world, this will pull a perfect vacuum, but if I get below 25 inches of mercury, I'm happy. I usually get 26, 27 on a really good sealed system. Sometimes when this thing won't work on a hot system. If you've got a vehicle that's hot and for some reason you're trying to fill it, it's going to pull that hot air out of the system, and it's just the gauge and the machine it won't work. It'll just it'll go crazy. It's not good for it. The other limitations of the tool are you can have, so you're pulling a vacuum on everything, you can have a water pump seal sometimes it'll just let air pull through the seal where pressure on the other side of it will keep it sealed, but you can actually pull air through it. So sometimes you can't pull a vacuum very good. And then reverse flow cooling systems are a nightmare. So if you got a thermostat in the bottom hose and the cylinder heads get coolant first, those can be a little tricky to fill, even with this. For the most part, it's 99%. So we're about there. That's about as far as she's going to go. You can sit here all day and night. It'll stop pulling. Let's focus there. There we go. So I'm going to close the ball valve. Turn the camera off by accident. Okay, so now we want to make sure this doesn't bleed up, and it'll focus. We're holding steady, so theoretically we could come back hours later and it'll still be there. That's an indication of a good sealed system. Alright, so we disconnected air, and next we'll fill it. Now for this to work efficiently, you need your source of antifreeze as high as the unit. You don't want to have this on the ground because the vacuum's going to have to work so hard to pull it up that it won't fill the system to full capacity. So we'll get this up level. Got this nice little battery here to set it on. Hook up our fill hose. Now this system holds more fluid than this bucket does. So as this is filling, I'm actually going to add more antifreeze to the bucket. We didn't drain the engine, we just drained the radiator, so it may not take all this. We'll see. Looking pretty good so far. You can see the, I don't know if you can see this in the camera, but this hose is sucked right down. And as it fills, it'll expand back out. So he's going to take every bit of it. It'll be 6 gallons. So this is a bit of a rarity. We completely emptied the bucket and it stopped dead on the money on the cold fill level. That's like textbook perfect, and it happened on camera with no editing. Awesome. All right, so now let's do the secondary system. So one thing to note about using this Reassembly kit, if you're servicing more than one style coolant, you need to make sure you flush it out, give it a little water, just so you don't mix them. I don't flush it when I'm done because everything in Force Fleet is orange now, so I'll just leave it, you know, like it is. But if the next vehicle I get has gold, then I'll flush it. Then I'll flush out the tool with water, and then I'll use it on the system, and I'll leave the gold in there until the next vehicle comes on. No particular reason other than being lazy. So in this style setup, you've got to remove the overflow hose. In this case it's just an elbow. You got to cap that off because the tool won't go down below to seal that, so you got to seal it yourself. So I just got a cap I found somewhere. Who knows when or where. And we don't need an adapter. This fits on there perfect. So I'll tighten that down. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Yep. We'll put our air back on here and rinse and repeat. So this one pulls down really quick. It's a lot smaller system. We're at 20, 23. We're already at 25 inches. And that's it. Alright, so here again we're going to put our bucket up here, and this may cover up what we're doing. I don't want to set the bucket on the radiator. Put it off here. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, you can see it somewhat. supply line back up. Let her rip, Skip. Now this one definitely has a tendency to overfill, so we'll probably have to remove some. You can actually shut this off at like 5 inches of mercury and get it to stop right on where where you need it to be. But sometimes I'll just let it fill till it can't take anymore, and then I'll just take some out with a fluid evacuator. Placing a radiator. Radiator action. Alright, so it doesn't take anywhere near as much antifreeze. You can see how much we got left over. We only started about right here to begin with. So we're empty. However, we're full. Quite a bit. If I were to leave that like that, man, it would be spitting antifreeze out of this overflow, and the customer come back saying they got a leak. So we're going to bring it down actually to between these two ribs right here. We'll bring it down that level. I'll show you how I'll do that. So this is just a fluid evacuator. I might be able to get that though. It's just a fluid evacuator. Really good tool for getting fluids out. I use it on everything but brake fluid. Do not use it on brake fluid. It's got a baffle down in here, so we'll run it there and see how it looks when we drive it. The good thing about antifreeze, the only good thing about it is if you spill some, then water will make it go away. If you spill oil, water won't do anything. So antifreeze and brake fluid, just a regular garden hose, will clean it up very nicely. So when we get done here, I'm going to just kind of give her a little rinse just to make sure that there's no antifreeze hanging around and give the customer the illusion they have a leak. And last but not least, we'll put the grill in. just got 4 screws that hold it in. Your 4 screws here. Then you got this little flap here, which amazingly enough is still here and has a valid push pin in it. It just clips in that hole there. So that is that. It's a wrap. We'll go drive it. Make sure the fluid levels are still good. No leaks. I disconnected the horn, so I'll make sure the horn blows. And I disconnected the wig wags, so I'll make sure they work. And we'll call this complete. Alright, so I went and drove this thing and it did good. You remember I said I was going to check the hood, horn and all that stuff, the wig wags? Well, I also had all the lights out, so I needed to check those. And I was going to mention that this little guy here, the best off to replace those, or at least check them when you have the headlights out, because they're a pain in the neck to get to if you put it all back together. So I checked everything out and replaced those bulbs, and guess what? I had a bulb out. And I really should have checked those before I put it back together. So the correct way to access this thing is to take the grill back out and take the headlight back out. But luckily, we kind of get to it behind the air filter here. So we'll just pop the air filter out and replace this bulb. I'm going to be working one-handed, so that'll be interesting. One of the great things about filming with a phone is you get phone calls when you're trying to film. Alright. Alright, see if I can film this without turning the camera upside down. So there is the bulb that I'm after. Well, let's see if it works. Now this bulb lights up twice, so we got to turn on both the blinker and the part light, and it works fine. I put it back together again, and you can actually get a better view of this degas bottle. You can see the level dropped just a little bit on my test drive, which is okay. That's good. So I'll finish topping it off back to where I wanted between those 2 lines, and I'll top the other one off and we'll ship it again.